Hi, Gina.
Hi, Angela. Oh my goodness. So nice to be with you again on this Cox. That's amazing. I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel happy about Love Talks
Yes.
evolving, growing up to be a young lady, as we used to say in my old Catholic school days. You're going to be a young lady. So, welcome everyone to this Love Talk. We're talking about self-love, and the title of the video is Self-Love. How long does it take? How long does self-love take,
Oh
Gina?
my goodness. Good question, eh?
Can I love myself today?
Of
Can I
course.
have it today?
You
Of
can
course,
today. You can have it
you can have it
tomorrow, the
today,
day after.
day after.
Well, I guarantee you're going to feel it every day. Possibly not.
No. So I think there's that myth that I want to throw out there at the beginning that there's a lot of talk about self-love
Yes.
as if you can get it like buy it off Instagram or some download. But it does take a whole lifetime and maybe I believe in many lifetimes. So what is your perspective about like taking your whole life to find
Oh.
self-love?
So a rude awakening for me, Angela, was when I realized that, what do you mean I don't love myself? I have to love myself? How do you do that? What is self-love? And it's funny because as a child growing up in Italy, because I was born there until the age of 9, and then I came to Canada. I just loved myself completely, but I was in a happy place. So to me, love as a little girl was happiness. Even though
Yeah.
my siblings didn't were not around, I had friends. I was in this happy place in my mind. In my mind, I was happy. I was outside, I was running, I was doing what I wanted. I was free, I was carefree, and it was Gina. It was just about Gina. And I meet with my cousins and we play. And then I came to Canada, and Canada, I mean, compared to where I came from, Italy, southern Italy, which was sunny and warm and beautiful and beaches, and you come to Canada, which is cold. Nice country, but it's cold, right? So
Extreme opposite.
extreme opposite, right? And here I am thinking, I'm like, I'm like an adventurer. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna cross the ocean in a plane, a big bird, and I'm gonna go there, and then and that love would have continued. But when I came here, the rude awakening was, right? Um, and that rude awakening traumatized me on many levels because as a 9-year-old girl, I thought I'm going to find friends, I'm going to be good. And I realized that the children here at that age were in a different mental space than the children
Yeah.
I was in Italy. And in Italy, when you're 9 years old, back in those days, I mean, I don't know now, right? But you're just a kid having fun, and you're running and you're playing and you're skipping. And but here was about, I mean, I used to see kids going to the back of the schools and necking. I thought, like, what is that? What are they
Wow.
doing?
Were they necking at 9? Or
They
no, that.
were 9.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I'm thinking like I didn't know
Huh?
what it was, and so a lot of lessons to me were taught the hard way. So it wasn't about self love anymore. It was about feeling estranged, right? So I think everybody goes through this, Angela, as a child, right? When you're little and you're in your family and you're in a cocoon of your family and you have your cousins and this and that and you get together and you play and you have a good time. If there's no rivalry, then it's a happy time and then it's a good time, right? And then um, I remember my sister's family when I came to Canada. Her husband, the family was so connected that the brothers and sisters bought houses all like in the same block, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, when the kids were little, they used to pack up the kids and go to the lake and spend the whole day barbecuing and this and that. And they would do things on that level of love, right? So there was a deep sense of family love. And the family love, was there self love? I don't know. Because self love is something that we think we have. And then we discover one day, maybe we're going through puberty, and we're feeling like, oh my goodness, my hormones are acting all weird. And people telling you, oh, look, you have a zit on your face, you look ugly. And all of a sudden you shoot all the way down and you're feeling ashamed of, oh, I have a zit on my face. I must be so ugly. And, and that idea of self love doesn't exist. We don't teach that to our children.
Right.
It,
So,
it needs to be taught.
yeah. But it's fascinating because what you shared about happiness, like kids grow up and
Yeah,
they're happy if they're blessed to
yeah,
be that way. And and the family could be a place for that, or they could just be happy in spite of the family being dysfunctional.
that's right.
And because they don't know that they're
It's
missing
dysfunctional.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they
it's
don't know that
normal. Right.
So they don't even question
Right.
self-love. But then something happens, could be along the way,
It could be a
puberty.
boyfriend, the first boyfriend. It could be the first girlfriend. It could be, I mean, it could be a girl coming to this young boy that's got maybe he's shy and she says, "Oh, you look so ugly. Look at you!" Like, and now this boy's feeling totally rejected and feeling. Does a boy gonna feel self love? No. Or it could be a
Yeah,
girl going through the puberty and she's feeling awkward because her body's changing, right? Because that's a hard time for girls. They don't understand why, and they get all these moody feelings, and it's like the hormones start going weird, and you're feeling moody, and you're feeling one day up, one day down, and you don't understand what's happening to you. And it's if it's not explained, because a lot of people are busy working, families are busy working. There's a lot of families are single families. There's not a mother or maybe a father around. Who's going to take the time to sit with the child and say, "This is normal, my baby girl. Like, this is normal, and it's okay. And you know what? And I love you, and you are beautiful no matter what." So teaching our children the talk of self-love. It doesn't
the talk.
exist. Oh yeah, it's very
Yeah.
important. Very important.
And
And
it's self-talk, or it's like one thing that comes to me, Gina, is like if we were to teach young kids, whether it's teenagers or a bit younger, about that talk, is it also, because there's this whole thing with self-love, like you talk to the mirror and you say, "I love you," and it can't it can't be real if you've got stuff inside that says you got a zit on your face, you're ugly, you had a boy or a girl experience and they said something and you felt uncomfortable about your body or your belly or your breasts or whatever, and that's in your body, like that discomfort. So
mhm.
is it the ability to just say I feel ugly, or talk about the ugly feelings or the feeling of discomfort? Like, can you talk more about that? How will we help young kids or even a young adult work through that feeling of being
Or adults.
unloved? Or adults, yeah.
Because
Us.
a lot of adults don't feel love because they feel that life has broken them. So as a child, right? Let's say you have a baby. The baby is pure and born, pure and innocent, right? And the only thing the baby wants is to be cuddled, to be held, because that's how the baby knows that there's somebody there who loves them, right? I mean, even now, just touching my heart, I'm feeling the heat from my hands, and it's. Can you imagine a baby feeling that warmth? It's like, oh yeah, somebody's there, right? Subconsciously, they already feel the nurturing and the loving, right? But then, as his children grow, because there's adults that are raising children, and a lot of adults have had a lot of stuff that hurt them, so they don't feel whole. They think they're broken. Nobody's broken, Angela. I really want to remove that word from the dictionary of broken. People feel I'm broken, I'm devastated. I dislike that word because we're born whole, we stay whole. We just sometimes something happens to us and we feel that our heart inside is hurting, and we just need to heal that. But a baby growing up, a little girl growing up, she falls down or she has a strange reaction. She goes home. If there's a bond between the parent, mother or father, usually it's a mother, sometimes it's a father. I've seen fathers are very caring and nurturing with the child, that will take that child and have that child back in a way that they reassure the child, it's okay, sweetie. You know what? This happens. It's not a big deal. And this is how you feel. And sometimes, you feel like a little bit hurt about this and you want to cry, and it's okay. You go ahead and cry. Allow them the ability to have the feelings come to the surface, because we're taught to keep our feelings down. We're taught, like, oh, what are you crying for? It's so stupid. Right there. That's traumatic. You're telling your child that to have an emotion is stupid. You don't build self love by telling them that emotion is stupid. Even though you're saying it out of, "Oh, what's wrong with you, honestly?" Like, if it's something that's not even, you think it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal, because we learned since from our when we're little that we are not worthy. And if we are not worthy, then we don't know what self love is. And then we spend all our life trying to please people because we need to feel worthy. We need to be good. Or maybe I did something wrong. I need to please my mommy. I need to please my daddy because this way they'll appreciate me. They'll love me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're teaching them to get love from outside. But getting love from the outside doesn't necessarily always work, because a parent may not be always available to hug a child if they're working long hours or if they have two jobs. Or maybe if it's a single mother, she's got three kids and she doesn't have the other partner helping out. It's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard always to be the best, right? It's hard. And we teach our children ways to take care of themselves. So we don't teach self-love. It's not even taught in school what self-love means. It should be
Yeah.
taught in school. They
Yeah.
should have that from when they're little, from kindergarten. Kids going up to the mirrors and say, "Look at me, I am beautiful today." Because we need to do that. Because we grew up thinking we're not worthy, we're shameful people. I'm not a good person. I'm too fat. I'm too short. I'm too ugly. I have greasy hair. Like, we don't look at what's in here. We look at the value of what's outside and what a perception of other people looking at us. When a person looks at me and says, I was 13 years old and riding a bike, learning to ride a bike. And I lost weight. I mean, I've always been this plump girl, woman, whatever. And in Italy, I was okay with it because people were like, all different sizes, and kids didn't make an issue about the size. They made an issue about just having a good time, right? And enjoying each other. And I came to Canada and I'm this chubby little girl, which I thought was okay, but I wasn't okay because people were making fun of me now. Oh, look at you. Oh my God, look at you. You're fat. Oh my God. Like, and things that Canadians were used to doing, I wasn't used to doing in Italy. Honest to God,
Ah,
I'm going to say this live. We did not have a shower in my home in Italy. Not everybody, when you went back in Italy back in the 60s and 70s, not everybody had showers or bathtubs in their homes. Right?
not everyone had
No,
electricity in the
electricity,
60s.
right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up having my little bath. My mom would shut the door and we had a big sink in the kitchen and go in there and I would just wash myself, brushing our teeth. We never went to the dentist. There was a dentist, right? So, well, you know what I'm saying? And here I am coming to Canada, and now because I have a shower, I didn't know what the shower was. I didn't know I should do this every day, right? So the things that my mom, the beliefs that my mom had, the myths about, a girl and how she grows up, that's what she taught me. I didn't know
Yeah.
any better. And my sister, when I came here, was already married. We're 9 years apart, but she was already married. So she was too busy with her life, her children, to come in and oversee me, right? So I learned things the hard way. And then through the process of learning, I was so traumatized by a lot of things that I don't even know what self-love meant. And I didn't know
No.
that. I didn't.
And what happened at 13? You were on the bike.
I'm on the bike. And at this point, I lost some weight. I was really feeling good about myself because I was cycling every day, right? And there's a boy that was down the street. I thought, oh, he was kind of cute, right? And he looks at me and he looks at me and he comes and he goes around the whatever, twice. He passes me, he goes around, comes back again. And he comes up to me and he says, when I saw you from a distance, I thought, oh, but now that you're up close, you're beautiful. There's something cute. I thought,
I love that thing. I think because we had a similar thing in Australia where there was a lot of European immigrants that came.
right? Mm-hmm.
So the first reaction from non-immigrants was like, yuck.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then eventually they go, actually, you're not half bad.
Okay. No.
But you can imagine how that affected you
Right?
from 13 throughout to like today.
Today,
You're sort of like, am I sort of okay? Like,
I've
because
never felt okay.
you've
Again,
never
I'm gonna
felt okay.
never
Yeah.
felt okay. Not when I came to Canada. I felt imprisoned. I wasn't allowed to go out anymore. I wasn't allowed to have friends. My parents are very afraid of me. So the fear of me being out there on my own and meeting the wrong people, because in Italy they were comfortable. It was their place. It was their stomping grounds, right? And I was running outside. I was always playing outside with my friends, and we'd go meet up with my cousins. And I had freedom. I was carefree. I came here and I felt almost like I was cloistered. I was put into a prison. I became a nun. Maybe I should have become a nun. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
So, but that was my experience. But you know what? A lot of girls my age back then went through the same thing. The
As
parents
you were
said the parents didn't know
talking,
how to talk to.
yeah, they
No,
didn't talk. They
no.
didn't. As you were talking about parents being working all the time, I remembered actually when I got my menstrual cycle,
Mm-hmm.
I was 12 and mum was working. And in the 70s, or this was the early 80s, that was the period, 70s and 80s, when lots of mothers, instead of being at home when girls started to menstruate, they were working because that
Yeah.
was the whole thing about women's
Liberation.
liberation. Yeah, but they were working for less. Yeah, anyway. So the liberation movement was useful for many things, but mothers were away. And my memory was, as you were speaking, I just had a memory. I had such horrible pain for about 5 days. I had 5 days of my first experience of hell, physical hell. And my mother came home and she was overjoyed. So I'm looking at her going, "You're happy? I'm absolutely miserable. How can you be happy?" And she was just naturally happy that I was becoming a woman, they'd call it back then.
Yes.
But I could not experience it. And I think one thing I learned from that was that I had to deal with stuff by myself.
Yeah.
She didn't talk to me about what that meant. She was just happy.
Right.
She didn't give me any language for it.
No.
She certainly didn't give me any education about sexuality
Are
or
you
how
kidding? Forget
or
about
boys.
that.
Yeah,
Boys?
my
No.
mum's boys talk was kick him in the middle of the legs.
At least you got that talk. You didn't get that talk.
Oh, really?
No.
No, mum just sort of kick them in the middle of the legs if they come close to you. Imagine that, guys. So I didn't do that. But anyway, I was sort of like, I don't understand.
Why do you have to do that?
What does
that mean?
But I remember being alone with a lot of my misery. And that was I thought that was how you did it. And now I think with the coronavirus, people are like, kids are by themselves in their own misery for many reasons. It's not just, your menstrual cycle, but for all the reasons of everybody in lockdown goes into sort of crazy places. But I think that's our culture has become used because parents are away from kids working. We've actually set up this pattern now in our Western culture or modern culture, which is going to the East as well, that kids can deal with stuff by themselves. But then that makes self-love really
Explain
difficult.
That. Yes. What is self-love? If we cannot hold our children, embrace them and love them. And you know what? I mean, and that's just not the working parent. I mean, I've seen women that stay at home and teach their kids their idea. So again, it's what their perception is. So it's not just about not being home. It's about perception. My mother never had the idea what self-love was her whole life. And when she moved in with me, she stayed with me she lived with me. I took care of her the last 24 years of her life, but 20 years we lived together and 4 years she wasn't at home. And when she moved in, she didn't know what boundaries were, love,
Yes.
nothing. And I just got so fed up of hearing her complaining. I mean, my father had been dead for 10 years and she's still crying and making my life miserable. And I had a job that made me miserable. And I come home to this misery. And I said, no. I says, when I come home every day, you're not crying. So I got her out of the house. I got her involved in playing bingo. And she loved it. She discovered that she is this, I don't know, butterfly person. And she likes to socialize, right? And she loved to dance, right? And I told her, I said, listen, but also when I come home, you're going to hug me every day and you're going to tell me you love me, right? Teaching another person, not just self-love, but to love others. Some mothers don't know what love is. They were never taught love. Some little girls are not taught love. And that little girl is going to grow up and become a mother, a wife, and she doesn't know how to love her family. She doesn't know how to be part of this. And she thinks loving a family is going to work and putting, buying the groceries and washing the dishes and washing the clothes. That's not love. Love, I mean, that's part of it. That's part of a job that you have to do as a parent. But the love means you sit down with this child every night and you pray with them. You explain about what life is all about. You explain that, the menstrual cycle is something that you're going to experience. And when you have it, don't worry about it. Come to me and I'll walk you through it. Right? I didn't know any of that. Me too. I didn't know what this was. I thought I was sick. And my mother goes, oh my God, yes. But she didn't explain to me what to wear, the proper gear to wear. I was embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
I was embarrassed deeply at school. I was so traumatized. I didn't want to go back to school anymore. And finally, my sister came and says, this is what you put on, but she didn't explain to me how to do it. And of course, back then, there was no commercials on TV showing you how to do things. And it was tough. It was tough. And the toughness comes from, how can you love yourself when you get ridiculed every day on a level of, oh, look at you. My mom says, well, when you have your period, you can't shower. You're not supposed to go outside. So my period started. I didn't take a shower for 2 days. And I used to have greasy hair. And I went to school. I had to hide in a corner because I felt embarrassed. Everybody, again, I was feeling ashamed of looking like crap. And finally, one girl had the courage, communication, to come to me and say, Gina, but why are you not washing your hair? I says, She goes, no. What is it? I said,
What is it?
It's that time of the month, and I'm not supposed to go in the bathtub. She goes, no, you're okay. You can't actually go. It's okay. It's safe. Here is a 12-year-old girl telling another 12-year-old girl it's okay because my mom didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been insulted severely at school. I had this guy, not say his name, but he would crucify me on a daily basis. Ew,
Yeah.
you smell. Ew, look at your hair. You're dripping oil. I was like embarrassing. How could I now meet a man and marry and feel loved? How could I even meet the right person to be in a relationship with when I'm not loving? I don't even know what love is because I'm not feeling loved at this point. I'm feeling abandoned, alone, not cared for, not nurtured. So I meet a person that feels the same way. So you have now two uncaring, two people that felt abandoned, not cared, not loved, that need that, but don't know how to give it because they have never received it. And then
Right.
you have children.
Okay, this journey of self-love is sounding really quite difficult. So you've got two people who haven't been taught how to love themselves, and they've gone through puberty or young life and felt rejected or shamed about different parts of themselves because no one sort of really
Right.
walked them through it.
Yeah.
And then they end up getting married, and then they have kids. And then having kids, does that help you with self-love? What was that experience like?
So for me, my three children, I was 18 when my first child was born. And to hold this baby in my arms, I literally felt, and I mean, he was angelic. I mean, I got white hair, but I was a brunette. My son was born with blonde hair, almost white blonde, and blue eyes. I thought, this is my God, this is mine. And I was like, oh my God. And nobody told me about the night feedings and all that stuff. I didn't know nothing. Nobody educated me. And the person I was married to at the time, we didn't have to have the special classes before birth. At the time, it was just optional. Okay, it became mandatory later, right? So I didn't even know what it was going to feel like. So when I'm holding this baby in my hands in the hospital, in my hospital room, back then it was 6 days. You were 6 days in the hospital. Now it's like one day and they kick you out,
No.
right? So the nurses used to feed him at night. So I never knew I had night feedings until I went home. It's like, you mean I gotta feed you every 2 hours? Oh my God. I lost 10 pounds in 2 days. That's how much I panicked. So I was breastfeeding him, right? And he was always hungry. But that was funny. So I held this baby in my arms. I'm 18 years old. I'm a baby that's had this history of not truly being loved with a man that didn't deserve me. Let's put that. And I'm holding him and I'm feeling like he's an angel. And then a ton of bricks hit me, literally. And the weight of the responsibility being a mother hit me so hard. But I wasn't afraid of it. Courage. The courage was there. This is my child. I'm responsible for you for life. I will always love you, always and forever. That's what I tell my kids and my grandchildren. I love you always and forever. Even after I'm gone, I will love you, right? So, and that's how I felt. The responsibility. I mean, of course, his brother came a year and a half later. So, at 19 years old, I had my second son. And by that time, it's like I lived through hell and all that. And but I knew how to take care of the kid. Like, I feed him the butt. I could do all that, right? But it was hard teaching my children love. But I loved them so much. My heart was so filled with love that
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to hug them and kiss them all the time.
Yeah.
And people were telling me, you can't do that. So my first son used to cry a lot, right? And I would pick him up. And I lived with my mother-in-law for 2.5 years. And she goes, you can't pick him up all the time. You're going to spoil him. There's going to be one to be held all the time. So I didn't know any better. So I put him down. Then he cried again. I pick him up. So then she's giving me shit. You can't do that, right? Instead of encouraging me and saying to me, you know what, Gina, let's do this together. This is my grandson. No. So I didn't know what to do. And then when my second child was born, because I've been through a lot of stuff with my first one, I thought, I'm not breastfeeding. Forget that. That's not working. Bottle. And he was good. He just would eat and sleep. And he was a good little guy. But I was still afraid of picking him up and spoiling him. So I still didn't know how much love do I give these little kids, right? I didn't understand, right? By the time my daughter came, I was in a different place. I was 24, thank God. I spoiled her. By spoiling her means I took pictures of her. I finally had money to buy myself a little camera. I took pictures, but I hugged her. I thought to myself, so what? If I'm gonna have to hold her all the time, I don't care. She's only little once. This is how you treat your babies. They're little ones. You shouldn't feel guilty about holding them and nurturing them and loving them. Because as babies, they need to feel the closeness and the comfort and the love. They can feel it. Babies can feel when they're loved, right? And then as they're growing up, it's the talking and the reassuring of, you're beautiful. Not because you're my baby, because you are. And whatever, I mean, for me, I was a Catholic. I used to go to church. It's like you're God's creation. God gave you to me. You're a gift from God. You're my divine little person, right? So making them feel that they are like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
This is what teaches them self love, reassuring them that they are beautiful. And I've seen on TikTok a mother with two little girls. It was so cute. One girl must have been a year and a half, and the other one must have been like 5. You are so beautiful. Yes. And you are so. And so she's teaching them, the girls, teaching them that you are beautiful. Because if you don't teach people, if human beings cannot teach human beings that they are worthy, they're beautiful, they're perfect, just the way they are. Instead of pointing out like, oh my God, are you eating that again? Oh, should you be having that? Or are you not too fat to eat that? Or you're not eating enough. Look how skinny you're all bones. Instead of looking at the negatives you gotta look at the positives. I love your little chubby nose, or your eyes are so beautiful. And look at your curly hair. Oh my God, like a sense of knowing that they're beautiful. Because even throughout all this from home, they're going to get the other stuff from the outside world. But if they have the
Right.
reassurance at home, when they go home and they say to their mommy, because now if their mommy and their daddy bear the trust foundation that they can come home and say, no, like my granddaughter, she'll go home and she'll tell her mommy, go, mommy, that little boy that that to me. And Carmela will sit down with me. I heard my daughter will sit down with her child and say, well, you know what, sweetie, this is how it is. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what they think. That's just how they see themselves. Explain to a child that if they're bullying
Everybody's
you,
different.
yeah,
Everybody's different and they behave differently.
yes,
And that's a challenge of growing up. Yeah.
right? But if they understand that if a child is picking on you or bullying you, it's not because it's you that's the
Mm-hmm.
problem. It's because they have their own stuff going on
Yeah.
and they need to get that out of their system. So even to look at them with forgiveness, it's not their fault. I mean, of course, if somebody's going to punch you in the face, then you defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or
Or run
because
away.
or run away.
Whatever.
No, you don't want to run away because then they'll do it again, right? The idea is to teach people to respect you. Because if you have self love, then you have to have respect of who you are as a person. You don't abuse me just because you choose to, right? And if we can teach girls to respect themselves and to love themselves, can you imagine the less abused women when they grow up? Because they will recognize, okay, I'm not liking what you're doing to me here. You're talking to me in a tone I don't appreciate. Or you slap me in the face. What is this all about? And when the person does it a second time, then it's not even a matter of should I stay here? It's a matter of packing up your bags and leave. Because when they do it once, they'll do it again. If you're connecting with an alcoholic, for example, and this could be both ways, women or men, but if you're connecting with a person that has alcohol issues, this person cannot acknowledge that they're alcoholic. You don't want to be in that relationship. If you love yourself, if you are truly understanding self love, then you know you don't want to be there, right? Because self love means not being abused. So this all comes from teaching them from when they're babies.
Yeah.
Number one is showing them. Number two is telling them how beautiful they are. Number three is telling them from a place of conviction and heart because they believe it that they're beautiful and teaching them how to love themselves. And then as they grow up, to have the trust, the foundation of the home, that if something happens outside of the home, they can come home and say, and feel safe and say, okay, mom or dad, this is what's going on. And the parents don't, instead of judging them or criticizing them, come from a place of heart and say, okay, sweetie, this is what this means, right? From a place of
Mm-hmm.
heart, because anytime you come from a place of non-heart, I mean, I've done it. I'm guilty of that. You're going through life sometimes gets difficult. You go through a separation, divorce, it's hard. You become angry. You want to be in a better place, but sometimes you cannot be because you don't have the support
The
system there,
support's the hardest part,
right?
especially like when you're an adult or a young 20-something-year-old person and you've left home and you might be in a relationship. Going back to your parents' house feels counterintuitive. It's a good thing to do if you're not in a good relationship. But you feel like, I don't want to go back
Well,
because,
you feel ashamed.
yeah,
I left because I'm going to do this, and here I come back with the tail between my legs, and I look like an idiot.
right.
You have this
Yeah,
guilt. You have the feeling of guilt and feeling of oh my god, and you're grieving because you're not going back and saying my parents are going to open up their arms and just you don't even know. Some parents wouldn't even want the kids back. Some parents
No,
say, we don't
that's the
want you,
hardest
right?
part.
Right?
Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
they're not around. Yeah.
I've
They're not
seen
in the same
parents,
state
yeah, not even that. I've seen parents that were cruel to their children and actually
when
kicked them
they
out at the age of 15 or
yeah.
put the kids in their, yeah, that's another story, but there's a lot of abuse happening with adults and children. But the reason why people are being abused or are abusing, or in my situation where there's no communication, why is that? Because that's what happened. That's what they were taught. You teach a child something, they think this is normal, and this is what's going to go on and on and on in life. But it doesn't happen that way. Communication has to be there. Security has to be there. Trust has to be there. Love and nurturing has to be there. But to have all these things in place, people have to learn and then maybe need to teach it at school again. What is self-love? And have people teach it either depending. I mean, it could be I don't know if it even plays from a church but it could be, I don't know if even a psychologist, but they need to have someone that understands the concept of love from a place of heart and teaching a child that,
Mm.
no, you know what I'm saying? I don't know who that even is going to be, but it has
I'm
to be
going to do it. I'll do
that's
it.
it. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, right? I can do
You
it
do
too.
it and I'll do it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to start looking at doing that. And what occurs to me is from my own experience of having to work things out myself, because Mum was in her own planet, which was a great planet, but it wasn't helping me. I learned to find resources like my peers, my teenage. We used to have the best discussions. We're still friends today. My girlfriends at school. We used to have all the discussions, being Catholic schoolgirls, like, are you going to do it before marriage? Like, we used to have those discussions, which other people today are like, what? Yeah. When in the 80s, we used to talk like that.
Right.
Are
Yes.
you going to do it before marriage? Like,
Even in the
we're like,
70s.
oh my
It's like,
God. Right. Okay. Like that was like cutting edge. But I realized the teenage conversations to this day were like foundations for what did I think? What was my values? What did I want to do, as opposed to what my parents were telling me I was supposed to do, but they weren't really talking anyway. So we had a lot of group peer conversations. I didn't have a lot of mentors. And I later on, because I learned how to deal with suffering and physical pain myself, I used that as my kind of strategy. I journaled. I did a lot of self exploration by myself. In your case, Gina, because you got married so young and had children so young, you when I hear you talking about your babies and that love, like oh, it sounds like that gave you a sense of love so enormous and beautiful that you use that throughout your life to. Did you use it? This is what I want to explore. Did you use that having birth and loving and experience such a beautiful love with your kids? Did you use that later in life to then give that to yourself? Did you have that as a touchstone to find self-love within you? How did
good
that love you
question.
experienced with them connect you to something to appreciate about you?
It didn't come until very recently um, that I discovered that I needed to be loving myself. I'm having a birthday next month. I'm going to be 63. So it took me a long time to realize that I truly wasn't loving. When I allow people to walk all over me, I'm not loving myself. When I allow people to yell at me, my own family, whether it's people I've given birth to or brothers, to tell me I'm disgusting and I'm this and I'm that, and I'm listening to it and taking it in like I own it, I'm not loving myself. I didn't know what loving myself was. And I did take a course. I mean, I did a lot of, like yourself, I did a lot of
Self.
exploration. And
Yeah.
I mean, we met up in Colorado, remember, on the mountaintop, listening to many speakers and talking about this and talking about that. And I thought I was learning. And I come across books about the warrior training. I did in the Catskills in New York. And I've done so many things. I mean, when my marriage broke up with my first husband, he left me for a younger woman. I felt devastated. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I was disgusting. And I look at pictures of myself now. Back then, I thought, man, I was hot. Like, what the heck am I talking about, right? And I was an amazing woman. I ran his books. I took care of the bookkeeping. I ran the office. He was self-employed. I took care of the house. I took care of the kids. I did everything, everything. And I was hot to boot, right? So I thought, like, I don't get it. Like, why did I think I was not good enough? Because I didn't love myself. I didn't know what that meant. And
Mm.
then with my second marriage, I thought I finally had done, because I did a woman's weekend and I learned a lot about this. And I was doing so much, I did so much learning all my through my life. And I thought I finally had, I nailed it. And my mother moved in with me a year after I married my second husband. And she was just like Sicilian, tough. Ah, not almost Nazi. Anyways, and she just drove everybody away. And my marriage lasted 12 years, and then that's it. It was done. And again, I felt like, okay, oh my God, two marriages, man, what have I done? What have I done wrong, right? So the feelings of grief and pain and shame, like, what have I done wrong? And so here I am on my journey again, learning about whatever. And I believe that's when I met you.
That's right. That was when we
That's
met on the mountain. Yeah.
after art, right? And he loved me. That guy loved, cherished the ground I walked on, but couldn't handle my mother's energy. My mother was a very aggressive, strong energy that wanted me all to herself. Even my kids couldn't deal with her. My daughter used to hide because my daughter couldn't handle my mom. So it was an understanding of, and I didn't know what was going on because I was so busy working and taking care of my mother and taking care of this and taking care of that. I was busy, and it was my mom passed away 4 years ago, and watching her slowly die caused me. I mean, I knew she was dying, but when she died, it still hurt. And she was 89 years old. She had a good life, but after she passed away, and being in the relationship I'm in right now with this man, that's kind of, I had to look at myself and realize, so what's going on here? I had to quiet my mind, Angela. My mind has always been busy, and I created my mind to be busy because I didn't want to deal with what's wrong. Because what was wrong was I didn't love myself. I didn't know that. And all the searching I did was trying to find love outside, something outside that would fill me, the hole I had in my heart, but nothing filled it. I met wonderful
Mm.
people like you. I've been blessed with many friends, many people, and I had wonderful relationships. I got to know different. I mean, when I met my first husband, I was 14. So when I married him, literally the virgin girl that didn't know nothing. I explored life after he left, and I found out my sexuality, and I found out how beautiful I was on the outside, but I still didn't trust my inside because I didn't know what that looked like.
Okay.
So that had to come to a place where I quieted my mind. And my daughter, God bless her, keeps telling me, Ma, do you. I said, what does that mean, do me? Love yourself. Just learn to love yourself. You don't need anybody else. When you love yourself, everything falls into place. I felt like I didn't know what that meant.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what that meant. Um, so I'm in a place right now. I mean, I've taken a course. All the courses I've taken. I finally had COVID. COVID, I had lost my job and I was trying to find work. And because of my age, nobody would hire me. So I thought, ah. So I went to talk to this wonderful lady that was a coach. And she said to me, but what you love doing is I like to empower women because of all the pain I've endured in my life. I mean, because of all the stuff I did. I mean, when my first husband left, I went to school for a year and I wanted to become a certified general accountant, right? And
Yeah.
I was in the honor roll. I mean, here I am, three kids on my own, an ex-husband and living across the street with his girlfriend, giving me a hard time on a daily basis. She was threatening me. He was threatening my children. She was doing this and that. And I was going to school, and I still was able to be on the honor roll with 95% of my grades. Like I was good. And then I went into real estate. So then I learned about that. And then I went into banking. So I became a financial advisor. So, and then I became a mortgage agent and I worked with mortgage brokers. So because of this, my experience in life has become so immense. And then I traveled. I met you, right? I met you in Colorado. Then I met you in Florida, and I went to Hawaii, and I met up with a whole bunch of goddesses. And I got to explore me on different levels. But even with all this exploration and
Mm-hmm.
thinking I found it, I still haven't quite still find what I was looking for because I don't. You can't look anywhere else. You have to look in here. You have to look in the
Wow.
mirror and say, "My goodness, look at you." Why are you going to Hawaii, Gina, to meet with goddesses when you are goddess yourself? You are God's child. God loves you. You are divinely blessed. You are beautiful, just the way you are. With all the extra weight, I can't get rid of it. It doesn't want to go away. That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to say that yes, you're stuck with me. This is the way I am, right? Until we're stuck with each other. And I love you, right? Do I say that on a daily basis? I try. Is there days I'm gonna feel, and I have. I mean, I just told you before we start talking that I've had a few weeks of drama going on in my life with my kids. Blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, and then I get stressed out. But I really need to come back to the closing the door, coming into my room, deep breath, connect with my soul, connect with my
Mm.
divine self, connect with God, or whomever people want to connect with. But that's who I connect with, and breathe, and just say, I am in a good place. I am loved. I am love. I love myself.
Mm.
And whatever else happens up there, God gave me this. God grant me this serenity to know, the things that can change, the things. Remember that serenity prayer, like just understanding that as long as I love myself, everything else will fall into place, and I cannot give weight to what my kids are doing, what my grandchildren are doing, what my partner is doing, because that's their life. I can't control that. Self love meaning that you understand that you can only, not even control, but love, understand who you are and make peace with yourself. Right? Remember the map of consciousness? Yeah, being in a place of acceptance. It's
Right.
amazing.
So
Right?
let's tie this into the map of consciousness. I just wanted to review what's coming up for me as I'm hearing you share your immense life. Um, there's this girl who's happy as a child
Yes.
and doesn't need to look for self-love because she's happy, and
Yeah.
she might have a family that's somewhat distant sometimes, but that's still fine because she's a
Right.
kid and she's happy and free.
Right.
Moves countries, and then from about 9 to teenage time starts to have these experiences like yuck. So she internalizes that, and then she gets married young, starts to have babies. With the child, she experiences this enormous divine, I'm calling it divine, but I'm using that word because it's kind of like this love that's so, it just flows out of you, and
Yeah.
it's, you can't control it. It's not
No.
coming from you, it's emanating,
Yeah.
but it's not even you just feel it, it's there.
Right.
And then you go through divorce and then another relationship, and during that time you're learning, and you start to see the world is telling you you're valuable because you're smart.
Yes.
You're valuable because you do this and you
Mm-hmm.
tick this box and you make that successful thing happen, and you start to do self-exploration workshops. But even then,
Yeah.
even though you're doing the self-exploration, there's this thing, is still this quest you're on for this self
Yes.
that's still not quite sitting. And then when your mother passed, that's when this place of, hang on, here I am. That's when you connected to something
Yeah.
there. And you started the women's empower. It's not just for women. It's called you're a certified empowerment coach. You started the training, and you were sharing with me that in the training they have this map of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and in that there's this place where a lot of us fall into, which is very low consciousness of the guilt and shame. And it
Yeah.
sounds like to me what you just shared with your incredible life, which I've kind of can't do justice to, but because this girl, this teenage girl or young girl, started to embody shame, she started to then carry that. And it didn't matter what she did, having children, being an amazing wife, being an amazing business person, being an amazing work colleague, being an amazing grandmother, being amazing. Doesn't matter how much she did, that shame was still there. And it was like all of the things in your life become a distraction. Like we all do this, like we all try to be a good person,
Yeah.
but underneath there's this shame and guilt and other stuff
Yeah.
there.
And
And
there's apathy and grief. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so talk to us about that, because that, in the map of consciousness, it looks at how shame, guilt, apathy, and grief, which is an interesting one because grief, I think people don't always associate with shame and guilt, but that sits there until obviously at some points it comes to rear its head.
Yes.
Maybe just share what you discovered.
So I after all this stuff that I did, and I lost my job, and I'm sitting here thinking, what do I do? And I talked to a wonderful friend of mine. She's a coach, and she asked me, "What? What do you want to do? She goes, sometimes the universe will send you something or will put you in a place where you have to choose what your calling is.
Oh,
What do you want to do? And I said, well, I've always wanted to, as with my varied experiences of things I want in my life, I want to help women. I want to help women because I know that when I became divorced, I had no understanding of management of my money, and I didn't understand different things. So,
yes.
and because I put myself out, I don't even know how I did it. I mean, to become a working in a bank, working in real estate, working in mortgages, I've learned all aspects of finances, and then plus training people and coaching people on jobs, how to do things. So even the fact that I've taken different courses, right? So when I was doing all that, sorry, my mind just kind of went blank for a second.
So your coach was
Yeah.
asking
So,
about
so she says, "What do you
what
want to
do
do?"
you
And
want?
I said, when I became a single mom and three kids, I had three lawyers, and nobody taught me what I needed to do to take care of myself and my children. As I had a person, a man that left me and says, "Okay, I'm gonna help you and give you extra money by giving you my RSPs." And because I had to cash them in to feed my children, I didn't know that that would imply that I had to pay taxes up front and later. And when the time came that I had to pay taxes, because I wasn't working, because I had worked for him, and because he wouldn't allow me to go to university to get my certified to become an accountant, because that's what I wanted to do. And no wife of mine goes to work. I'll take care of you forever was the words he told me, and the vows he made in front of God. And he left me 12 years later and moved across the street with another woman. So at that point, I felt like, so what do I do with myself? And I had to find a way to take care of myself. And I did learn how to take care of myself. But when he left, when it really happened, he did leave. Now what? And when my family turned their back on me, did not support me, now what? I had no support.
Right. Yeah.
God gave me another wonderful friend, Eileen and Tom.
Yeah.
Eileen, she was like a neighbor of mine that my daughter, when she was 2 years old, went over. No, my Carmela was actually a year and a half, and she walked over to their house and asked for a diaper change. I don't know why even that happened, but I believe that there's angels in this world and that God draw will take my child and make her walk across the street so I can meet this angel because she's been there in my life ever since. My daughter is going to be 40 in February. So I've known this lady for 39 years. And she's had my back more than my mother has ever had. And she's loved me unconditionally with no judgment, right? So, but this is what the things I needed to learn. And if it wasn't for her, I was alone. I don't want women to be alone. When I met you on that mountaintop, my vision was to help open a foundation for women to come to learn. If you've been left alone by a husband, you're feeling sadness, you're feeling ashamed, you're ashamed that your husband left you. I wasn't good enough. Who knows what you're feeling? You're feeling possibly guilt, right? And when we are all human beings, we are vibration, we're energy. So when we're feeling shame, it's like burning a candle, it's like doing this, right? This is shame. Oh man, no, actually, this is probably even more. Let me try this one. This is shame. You're
Right.
burning a
Yeah. That
20,
feels more like shame.
right?
Yeah.
Right. We're not feeling when the energy is 12 watts. You don't have the energy to do anything. You don't want to go on with life. You're feeling not good. You're feeling like, what have I done? I'm such a waste. I'm such a loser, right? And it would have been so nice if I had somebody then holding my hand. And this is what I wanted to do. She goes, you know what, Gina? Why don't you take the course then? This wonderful lady's got this called the SWAT Institute, and there's a course on empowering women, becoming a coach, a certified empowered coach for women, and only women because the lady that actually has this company and myself has experienced so much grief in her life being a woman, from the places of being abandoned, raped, abused, abused emotionally, verbally, physically, abused in any way possible, threatened. If you don't come and see me this week, your kids are not going to eat. Like, how do you do that to people? Like, what heartless person does that? So I want to be there for these women because nobody was there for me.
Mm.
And I want to, and so she goes to take the course. So in taking the course, I signed up and I thought, okay, great. And in doing so, all the years of all the courses I've taken, like, the warrior and this and that, everything that I've done, brought me to a place of learning how the mind works and the map of consciousness, which is something which actually is a doctor that has put this together, right? And she's actually quite good. The course is amazing. I've learned what it means to look at shame. I didn't know I had shame in my body. I didn't know that. I was ashamed at the fact that I allowed this man to abuse me. And then I married him because I felt I had no choice. Oh well, we can always get divorced. And here he is checking out my bridesmaids on our wedding day. Like, honestly, Angela, telling me how I didn't look. He goes, look at you. You look so ugly. Look at her. She's beautiful. My wedding day at the age of 17. Right? This is,
Ah,
oh yeah. So, and then feeling guilty because I felt like I wasn't good enough. Right? So feeling despair, which is apathy. Despair. How do I get out of this? I'm going to prove I can be a good wife. I'm going to be a good mother. I'm going to
right.
run the business. I'm going to do
Okay.
this. And then being in a
Right.
place of grief because he was never accepting me. He was always lying to me. He was always I would hear rumors he's with this woman down the street and he's doing this and he's doing that. But I thought, no, 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 I'm not gonna. And I would question him, go, no, what I do it to you? Lied to my face for years, right? And then the fear
So
that he would
hang
leave.
on, the grief, you're saying the grief. So you went through shame
Yeah,
and then apathy, like whatever. And then
yeah.
the grief is you
The,
feel like he's gone to some other person.
the grief for me was the regret. Right? Like if I felt it was tragic. He told me a year before you leave me, he goes, I'm leaving you on my birthday next year. So I started going to church every morning, asking God to help. And I would take my kids to school. My daughter was little. She'd come with me to church every morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd be in church. And I prayed, please don't make him go, please don't make him go. So I was grieving already something that had died.
That something had died and that there was you had nothing that
But
you could do
and then
about it.
there
There was
was
nothing you could do.
the fear, the anxiety, I was like, it was frightening. Oh my God, what happens if he leaves? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to take care of my children? It
And
was just,
do I get it correct that with the map of consciousness, this fear, anxiety, apathy, grief, and guilt and shame, they kind of go like in a circle where they sort
no.
of cycle?
So, so it actually goes like the wattage of a light bulb, right? You got shame, which is at 20, and then you have guilt, which is at 30, then you have apathy, which is at 50. So you work your way up. And
Okay.
every woman, and I'm going to talk to just women. I know men go through this too, but every woman, um, we're in a certain place in our life, and sometimes we don't even know we're there because we're so clouded. We cannot even see ourselves. Forget about looking in the mirror and saying you're beautiful. You can't even look in the mirror to look at yourself. You can't because you're just so ashamed to look at yourself because you think you're so unworthy, right? So disgusting, right? But it builds itself up. And every time when you're in a certain place, the goal is so when I was feeling in a place of um, grief when my husband left, there was nobody there to tell me, you know, this is the way it's going. I'm going to help you, Gina, to elevate yourself, to empower you to a higher level. You are strong. You can do it, but you can do it, and I'm going to show you how it's done. And you have to do the work, right? I didn't get that. I got nothing, right? The idea is to hold a woman's hand and say, you know what, you're in a place of grief. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to give you things to do so you can help yourself to overcome it because I cannot do the work. I can only show you, and I can be there to
Mm,
help you, to hold your hand through it. But you need to do the work and then bring you to a level of the next level up, which is fear. Each
okay.
level has to be worked through. You cannot skip from shame, which is at the bottom, and go right up to courage, which is like 6 all the way up. You can't do that. You
So it
need to
sounds like
feel.
if you're in a place of shame, you actually can't face your fears because you're just too busy putting yourself down and saying
Yeah,
you're useless. Is that
yes.
how it works?
That's how it works. If you're in a
Okay.
place of shame, the next place you're going to is guilt, right? So
Okay.
when you're in a place of shame, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that because I allowed this man to abuse me, you know, I don't know what to do with myself. What do I do? What do I do? Like I'm feeling miserable. I'm feeling despising. I'm humiliated, right? But if I can walk you through the process of, okay, so in order to overcome shame, these are the things that we need to do, right?
Right.
And then the next step you're going to is guilt. So you have to feel the shame and overcome it. You have
Okay.
to, then you go to guilt, and guilt is a blame, vindictive. So you're feeling the guilt of, oh my God, I allowed him to do this to me, like blaming myself, right? And you have to feel it. And with anything in life. So I've learned that it's funny because when I I was learning all this process. Something happened through all this. I thought, I'm going to go and close myself in my room for a couple of days and just feel these emotions because I
Yeah.
had to, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean,
That's what I did. Yeah. When I grew
yeah,
up, I used to
right.
like
But
just
I did.
like a storm in a teacup, I'd brew.
But you knew this is what you need to do. But you need to pretty well allow yourself the space and the time to feel these emotions. Because if you don't feel them and you hide them, then they're still there. You
Mhm.
cannot go from a place of shame to a place of pride, which is like 6 levels up. You can't. You can't just come out of them. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm proud I did this. But no, you're not proud. You're still feeling ashamed, but you're hiding it.
Yeah.
And you're not doing yourself or anybody favors because if you're hiding something, it's like you were saying, yeah, look at me, I'm beautiful. But if you don't believe you're beautiful, then the energy you're giving off is not the in the the for example the neutrality, which is your light bulb is 250. You're at a place of shame, which is 20. So you may say to yourself or may want to believe yourself that you are beautiful, but if you're still feeling shame, you're not burning brightly, and you're going to attract that same energy to you,
Right.
right?
And this sounds like to me that self-love it's really about being in a space to face shame, guilt, to go through the emotions and say, yep, that's there and I'm okay. Because self-love isn't like what people project on the media, like, I love you and you're beautiful just the way
Yeah.
you are. That's sort of a
Yeah.
poster child for
Well,
self-love
that's just media. I don't like social media because media puts out so many ideas of things that are non-existent, and
and based on
the
nothing.
young, yeah, and the young girls. You know, when we were growing up, the Cinderella story and the Seven Dwarfs, and the prince comes along and kisses you, and you're awake and you live happily ever after. That's not reality. Reality
However,
is
in the true stories, what's
yes,
missed in a lot of those stories is that there are evil witches, there are bad stepmothers. Notice the female, negative female. But there's also if you go to Grimm fairy tales, there's some very, very dark. So the original fairy tales
oh
were quite
yes,
dark, but they've
yes,
been polished, and unfortunately, some of the Disney effect has put this fairy dust over everything and made it look all very rosy. But if you go to the original
I've
stories,
seen them. Yes,
and like
scary, scary.
the Italian versions of some of the saints, the fathers were like killing their daughters. That's how it was. That you don't want to do what I'm going to say, I'm going to kill you. Like if you go to the original, unfortunately, it's the last 400 years where these stories have been polished to become something they're not. Because actually, the original stories are quite deathly and deal with death all the time. But
But
our modern culture has,
have
yeah,
you noticed how it's always the woman that's taken the mostly, not always, but mostly the women that oh, the daughter is going to get killed. You don't do what I tell you, blah 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 blah.
yeah.
It's really sad that in this day and age, even though we've come a long way, as you said, there's still places where women are taken for granted, abused for no reason, just because they're beautiful, they're showing an ankle or something, and it's so sad. I mean, how can you teach
Mm.
a child self love when you're going to abuse a person, that girl, or rape her, and then kill her because you can? It's so sad. There's just so much in this world that is so not right. There's no balance there, right? But
Yeah,
it's gonna
it's
start
starting.
somewhere.
It's
It's
starting.
gotta start somewhere, right? It's gotta start, and this
Well,
is
I
the
see
sad
it
part of it all.
in my own life. I was never talked to by my father. He, when I found out about other Italian families, I went, gee, Dad's pretty nice, actually. And there was no shotguns, there was no threats. Like, if you talk to a boy, I'm going to cut your legs off. There was nothing, he would never say that. And certainly in my life, even I think he or mum or both of them said, I want you to be happy. And certainly I had to deal a lot with my own, but even in my own life, I see a huge progression in the family where even in my family, we have members of the family that are in relationships, but they're not married. So
Yeah,
that's quite radical for a Sicilian traditional family to have cohabitation and not do marriage and to have children out of wedlock, that sort of thing. That's sort of
I know.
pretty progressive. Um, so it's happening. It's just not happening on a level where we can say, yeah, we've changed. The whole world has changed. That's going to take hundreds of years.
Yeah,
200 at least, or something like that. And if we look at the male role, like what I was saying about the fairy tales, men in fairy tales were quite violent.
Yes.
That is not acceptable in a lot of our cultures today. But
Right.
violence was pretty much for the last however many thousands of years of human history, violence was normal. So we complain now, oh, the world's so violent. It's like, go back 150 years. It's a lot more violent back then. So violence now we're seeing it more at schools or bullying. Kids are doing it. And
There's a
there is
lot
an
more kids that are killing other children in schools. A lot more happening of that. But I
yeah,
think again that's got to do with the lacking of self love.
that's
Um,
right.
they're
And now
not
the
loving.
culture not
Yeah,
having a place of nurturance.
belonging. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so. So it needs to be taught, and it has to be in the school curriculum, Angela.
Yeah. It's a long project. We can get it there, Gina.
Yes, I can get it started, right? Oops,
We can
sorry.
start. We can start.
We
We
can
can
start.
start it.
It's actually a really good idea. And putting something together and going to a school and say, you know what, and just propose that how to build, how to create a place where children feel love, self-love, and trust, and self-respect. Because if we love ourselves and respect ourselves, then we'll learn from a young age what being bullied or taken advantage of or being abused looks like. So we don't go in that place,
Okay.
right? We don't go in
Yeah.
that place. Yeah,
Yeah.
the little babies have to be taught.
So thank you so much for sharing your life journey with us today. It was
Yes.
very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And so going back to our original question, how long
Does it
does
take?
self-love take? Would you say it's something you've discovered
Just
now,
recently? Yes.
just recently,
And
yesterday? No.
and then there's moments that I'm not loving myself because sometimes you fall down that map of consciousness. And even though you're sitting in a place of neutrality, your willingness. So neutrality, it means I'm in a place of trust and feeling satisfied and feeling good. I'm neutral, right? Or willingness means I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful. And there's times because of what's going on, or maybe I'm tired, or maybe the energies around us, or maybe my work is really because I found a job. I have a job for the last almost 4 months, which is getting really busy. So when I'm overtired, I find that I lack and I fall down. Like something will happen and it'll just go grate me the wrong way because I mean, I've been unloving myself for many years. So here I'm learning. So I'm like a little baby now, right? I'm the little baby that's learning, oh, yeah, this is so
Right.
nice, right? But then something happens to piss me off to the point where I can't handle it. I think, oh, and I go, right? And then something comes along. This is where I have my own coaches, talking to them and just or even myself, the woman within me, not the little girl within me, not the archetype that's the little girl that's saying you abuse me, that's not nice, or you're angry teenager, but the woman comes out and says, okay, Gina, enough of that, compose yourself, meditate, say, pray, just give yourself the space to find your place way up on that ladder again and to be in a place of willingness and to be in a place of love. So we're human, we're not perfect. How long does it take to find self love? It could be a lifelong journey. Some people go to their death without knowing what self love means. That's
Yeah.
so sad, because I want to be able to teach a woman what it means to love herself, because I see you from the first moment I met you, and I saw the potential and beauty in you. I saw your soul. This is the gift I have. And because of this gift, and I see people and I see the potential, sometimes when they don't act upon their potential, I used to get angry. So like, what's the matter with you? Why can't you do this? Right? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. Bah, 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 bah. The Italian way, it's a silly way. But I realized that if people don't see it, I didn't see the potential in me. It took me years to figure it out. So being patient, not only with myself, but with being patient with myself and being patient with others. That's also self-love, right? Learning to understand that this is a time to stay quiet and to be patient with yourself. This is a time to
Mm.
meditate, to sit down and be in a very quiet place, light a candle. Or this is a time for prayer. I mean, when my granddaughter came over once and she spent the weekend with me, she goes, "No, I want to sleep in your bed. It's okay." So, and we went to bed, and I says, Do you pray every night? She goes, no. That's what you should. She's my godchild too, right? So I said, you know what, sweetie? You should pray to God because it's nice to talk to him. He's our Heavenly Father. And just like you talk to your mommy or your daddy, you could talk to him too, right? So we had the conversation with God, the two of us, and she thought, oh, I could do that. Because, yeah. I said, you could say the Our Father or whatever you want to pray or you want to say, but you also say, you know what, God, today was a really good day. Or say, you know what, God, that little kid today made me feel really bad at school. Talk to him. This is your time. So to me, that's like meditation. And when
Yeah.
I can do that, and then I can like settle down and relax and kind of look over my day and think, okay, so I did that. I wasn't too proud of that. And I did this. Okay, that was okay. And that wasn't very nice. So if I had to do that over again, what would courage have me do? How could I do that better? Right? Right. So just looking at it. Do I always do that? No. Sometimes I'm too tired to go into bed and crash. We're human. We're human.
Sounds
No,
normal to me to go to sleep if you're tired.
just a crash. You're still thinking
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah. So this self love is a lifelong journey, and if you are discovering it, then you're blessed. If you find it very young, awesome. If you find it later on in life, that's amazing.
Awesome.
That's right, awesome. If you
Find it
know
before
that,
you die. That's
that's
awesome.
awesome because I don't know if my mommy loved herself. I know that
Yeah.
at the end, she had forgotten. She had dementia, and then she got Alzheimer's. And I used to go visit her. The last 3 years was tough, and the last year was getting even tougher because the Alzheimer's. Eventually, she forgot as kids, but also it allowed her not to be able to swallow. So she weighed at the end 90 pounds. So she looked like one of those little people that were starved. Well, she was starved to death. She couldn't swallow. And the second last time I went to visit, because the last time I brought a pastor there to kind of give her rights. And thank God I did because the Sunday afterwards she had died. But the second last time I went to visit her, she was sitting there and I looked at her and said, so I used to ask her, who am I? What's my name? She goes, Bo. And so who am I? Bo. And then she said in Italian, non so chi sei, però so che ti ho sempre amata. And she looked in my eyes and she said that, which means, I don't know who you are, but I know in my heart I always loved you.
Wow.
That taught me that love is the greatest gift of all. It's the
Yeah.
biggest, it's amazing power. If we can just take that and harness that love from our hearts and,
Right.
and feel it and just put everything else aside. Nothing matters. All the dramas that we go through in life are not important.
Yeah.
They're not important. This kid doesn't want to talk to that kid. Oh, this one's going to block this one from the Instagram, and this one's going to block you from here. Like social media, it creates a lot of social media is creating a lot of havoc in families because people feel they have the right to hurt other people by not using their words, but by blocking you. I don't want you, block you, without even an explanation. And the person receiving that thing, like, what the heck have I done? What is this all about? So what happens is that anger comes up, and so to me, this is all just evil. This evil that's growing within us because we're trusting social media more than we're trusting the picking up the phone and say, "Hey, how you doing today? I heard something. You said something, or so and so told me something about you. Is that what's going on? Let's talk about it." People think that I'm being too forward when I want to talk, but I feel that being able to say, "This is how I feel. Let's talk about it," instead of saying, I'm going to put on social media that I don't like you, or, "Oh, look at that, I'm doing this," or, "I'm going to block you. I don't want you." That's cruelty.
Yeah.
That's cruelty.
Next time we're going to talk about love of the divine, because I see that social media is our negative aspect of human consciousness
Yes.
being reflected back to us a million times fold. So we can actually see it, and we're forced to make a choice. Are you going to choose that, or do you want to choose divine love, or whatever you call divine? We'll look at that more in the next talk on
For
divine
sure.
love, because some
Okay.
people don't connect to the divine, which is a symptom itself of a culture that doesn't know what it is and who it is. Your
Yeah.
mum saw you. She says, I don't know who you are, but I
But I
know I've always
know I've
loved
always
you.
loved you. Yeah.
And that's the divine love that we're going to be sharing more on. But that social media part, I'm just taking a note that we'll touch on that.
Okay.
And Gina, can you share how anyone can work with you, if they want to be in touch with you, how would they get a session with you? How could they connect with you?
Well, you can email me at, my name is spelled Gina, and my last name is Barber, like the person that cuts your hair. So Barber. So Gina Barber 59 at gmail.com. If you want to send me an email and ask a few more questions about this and let me know if you're interested. I am certified. I'm so happy. Actually, I'm a certified empowerment
Congratulations.
coach. Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. That's
I
great.
mean, even though what the coaching taught me to do was to understand how the mind works, and the mind can trick you so much, and the mind lies to you, which was kind of like what my aha moment, right? But a lot of things I've learned through life experiences. So I've had a life experiences of many things. And if you are a woman and you need to talk to somebody, whether you're going through even questioning, am I sitting in a place of shame or what's going on with me? Yeah, send me an email, definitely. And we can set up a time to talk and we can take it from there.
Thanks, Gina.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is great.
So I'm gonna do a little like, what is love? Baby,
Baby,
don't hurt
hurt
me.
me,
Don't
don't
hurt
hurt
me no
no
more.
more.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun,
dun.
dun,
Night at
dun,
the
dun,
Rock's
dun.
free, anybody? You can tell we're 90s girls.
What 90s? I'm still 70s and 80s. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm like a few years quite older than you are. But anyways, it was nice talking to you. And for anybody that's listening to this, I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. And we have.
And please put your comments, shares, questions, reach out to Gina. Let us know if there's some specific topic. We're basically doing love talks, so we're talking on different topics. I've based it on the art of loving, the 5 areas, but I'm next year in 2022, I'll be looking at things around the body, love of the body. We're starting off with love of the divine or divine love. And then, yeah, I've got a few other topics that I can share, but if people are looking at specific areas, please put that in the chat as well. Thanks, everyone.